All right, it's the new year, and January might have started off a little bit slower than what you would have liked. So, with that new year motivation, you might be looking to run ads for your clinic. But let's be honest, you have no idea where to turn or what to do. Or maybe you go to Google first, you create an account, you do all the steps they say. Maybe you even watch a couple of YouTube videos and you somehow get the ads live and you turn them on, you're spending your money and you're ready for your phone to ring off the hook. You're ready for all of these leads to come in. But what ends up happening is other than a few wrong numbers and, people calling, looking for the ATI across the street, you got nothing. So you think to yourself, paid ads suck, right? Well, if you're interested in running paid ads in the new year, then this podcast is going to be for you. This is what I'm going to dive into in this podcast. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads in the last 3 years. I grew Ripple to 7 providers, and 70% of our new patients came in from ads. At Patch, we're currently running ads for over 100 clinics right now. So it's safe to say that I've got a fair amount of experience with ads, building clinics, on the paid advertising side of things. Again, as always, whenever I talk about ads, there's this little asterisk out there that you do have to have the local marketing dialed in as well. But ads really can be, if you got your business, there's a little bit of fire going there. Ads can be the gasoline that you dump on top of that to really explode your business. And if you want fast growth, so, with my experience, I've had mostly good experience, but I've also, learned a lot from the not so good experiences as well. And, what I've done is I've learned how to take those periods of underperformance, which is going to happen with ads, especially with a smaller budget, which is what I used to have back when I first started running ads, and really understand like what's going on and how do we revamp the strategy to get you from breaking even or 2 or 3x return on ROI and get you up to an 8, 9, 10x ROI, because that is really where you should be. So if you've run ads in the past and they haven't worked, especially in 2025, in the new year, or even in like Q4, start to feel that your ads aren't working as well. There's probably a good reason for that, because on both Meta and on the Google platforms, things have changed a lot. The general $79 shoulder evaluation for Meta ads, or the general physical therapy Google ad that people put out there, like those don't work anymore. The ads landscape is too there's too much going on in the ads landscape. And with all of that noise, need to be very specific. You need to have specific ads for specific people, and the Google side of thing for specific searches. So that means your ads, your targeted keywords, your landing pages, everything needs to be super congruent and it needs to have the same message. Because if somebody's searching for back pain physical therapy and they just get a general physical therapy ad shown to them, you're going to get lost in the noise there. They need to be shown a back pain PT specific ad for that. And the landing page needs to talk about that. And the ads copy needs to talk about that. Same thing on the meta side. So if you, or whoever's running your ads is still throwing out those general PT ads, this is your PSA in 2025 that this needs to change. Because if that's what you're doing, your cost per conversion is going to continue to go up, your CAC is going to go up, and your ROI is going down. And I think, and why I love ads, to be totally honest with you, and I think that everybody should be running ads, is because in the cash-based PT world, we're really in high ticket sales. People are coming in, they're spending multiple thousands of dollars with us. Ideally, your LTV, the lifetime value of your patient, should be extremely high. And how you gather your LTV number is going to be, how much does somebody spend with you throughout their whole time of working with you. So if they're coming in, they're buying one 6 pack, maybe that's only, $800. But if they're coming in, they're buying a 15 pack to get started with, and then they're moving into continuity afterwards where they're buying sessions once or twice a month for the next 3 months. This is what we did really well at Ripple. And at Ripple, the lifetime value of our customers was $4,000 plus. So, if we're spending $150 to get a new lead in the door, our ROI on that is massive. It's huge. And that we're not alone in that. So, and if you're running a cash clinic right now, figure out what your LTV number is, and it should be a couple $1,000s. And if that's the case, then your ROI on ads should be very, very high. But if you're not running specific ads, and again, what we're seeing kind of across the board is if we're just throwing out some of those general ads, PT ads, Cairo ads, shoulder assessment, running assessment, if those things aren't super specific to the demographic and the avatar that you're going after, your cost per conversion is going to go up. That's going to slice into your ROI. And, that's probably going to make you want to not run them, because if you're not seeing a huge ROI, it's going to be really hard to justify running ads when that really should not be the case. I look at a lot of Google Ads accounts, and when somebody comes on with Patch, if they've run ads in the past, we always take a look and see if we can find any sort of like what was the data that they were gathering beforehand. So we only run Google Ads for Patch right now. Google Ads, although you don't get as many leads as you do on the Facebook ad side of things, they're more qualified leads. There's higher intent there. If somebody's searching for physical therapist near me, they go to our landing page and they book a discovery call. The odds of that person coming in and moving forward with us is much higher than what we call interruption marketing, which is going to be a meta ad where you're somebody scrolling on Instagram, your awesome video and ad pops up, they fill out a quick form, and then they continue on with their day. They weren't really looking for your service at that point. That's why it's called interruption marketing. And even though you capture that lead, they're not really ready to move forward with you. So that's why we run Google Ads in particular, and why we think that they work better. We see a way bigger ROI on those side of things. Not to say that Meta doesn't work. We've been toying around with Meta, and we'll probably start to offer it in the near future, but it's just a lot more administrative burden. So anyways, back to my point, what I was talking about beforehand here is I look at a lot of Google Ads accounts. So somebody gets started with us, and if they've run Google Ads in the past, then I'm looking at their ads account just to see what type of data, what type of conversion tracking were they getting, and what were the searches that were happening, what was working well for their ads account, what wasn't working for their ads account, and through all of these audits that I've been doing, there's a handful of mistakes that people make when running ads. And again, I'm going to be talking about Google Ads here. This can, be the same thing for Meta as well. But again, my context is going to be more on the Google side. And, I think one of the big mistakes that I see on the Google Ads side of things is taking advice from a Google Ads account rep. Again, you have no idea probably what you're doing. You just went in, you were like, I need to generate some leads. You signed up, you went to ads.google.com, you signed up for an account, you put in all the physical therapy keywords, maybe you watched a couple of YouTube videos, and then a Google Ads account rep reaches out to you, and they're offering to give you a little bit of help. Again, most PT clinic owners have no idea like who this person is or what their motive is, and if like they don't even have context to ask proper questions to that person, right? So taking the advice of these Google account reps, really what their job is to get you to spend as much money as possible. They don't really care about how many conversions you're going to be getting. So we've seen this in the past where somebody takes one of these calls, and for example, they turn on what's called display ads. So if you've ever been to like a news page or ESPN or anything like that, you'll see these ads that pop up on the sidebar or on the top banner, and they're kind of gross, and so they don't really look very good. Those are called display ads. And Google is actually the ones that run them, because if you're running them, your searches through Google, that's where those ads are being put out. And your ad is going to be shown to the most people, which is what this Google account ads account rep is going to, look at, like to give you when they give you feedback on what the results are. But again, like you're spending money on people just, seeing your ad pop up on the New York Times article that they just read. And again, that's not somebody that's actually searching for physical therapy. So you're going to spend more money. You're going to spend it quicker. but you're not going to get the results that you're actually looking for. So again, these Google Ads account reps, when they reach out to you, their motive is to get you to spend more money and try to use as many of these search campaigns as possible. When in reality, especially if you're only looking to spend $500 $1,000, you should only be running search campaigns. So that's a huge red flag that I always see if I see any sort of changes happening from somebody on the Google Ads account team. The other mistake that I see a lot of people make is, again, like, it kind of goes hand in hand with this, but they just try to run them on their own. And they feel the call volume going up a little bit, but like, let's face it, like, chances are, as a clinic owner, you're a physical therapist, you're not a marketer. And unless you're like me 3 years ago, you don't really you're not really interested, or really, the more importantly, you don't have the time to sit down and figure all this stuff out. Again, when I hired my second physical therapist, I totally removed myself from patient care and I dove into this stuff. I got obsessed with it and I loved, especially the Google Ads side of things and learning how to do all this stuff. But for you, if you're trying to grow a clinic and you're still treating and you're trying to grow a team, you're trying to be a good leader, and you're trying to do local marketing, you're trying to do all of these things, chances are you don't have time to run these ads on your own. So that's a really big mistake I see. And clinic owners very quickly, especially if you don't know how to set up budgets. I've seen a couple clinic owners where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they've spent $3,000 on ads and they had no idea how they did it. And it's because of the bidding strategy that they put on there. So you got to stop that. You really cannot be doing that. And you should not be trying to run ads on your own if you have other things to do at your clinic. Another really big mistake that I see is when clinic owners will hire just like a local agency to run them. That I think this is good intention, where a local agency, for example, if somebody is in Portland, Maine, and they're a local marketing agency, I'm like, all right, my area. I'm trying to grow my market in this area. You understand, what towns and neighborhoods and cities I'm trying to show up for. But again, like, just because they know your local area doesn't mean that they necessarily know physical therapy or whatever your service might be. So again, if you're a cash-based PT and you're running specific, there's certain search terms that a general agency isn't going to be able to figure out and get you in front of those people that are searching for those certain things. Doesn't matter how much you educate them on that, unless they have actual experience with running ads for healthcare providers, which most don't. That's a really big mistake that I see. And again, this is where he starts showing up for Medicare PT or United Healthcare physical therapy or aquatic PT. These are like the biggest search volume terms that are out there. And, a normal agency, they're good. They're going to do their research on what they should be trying to get you to show up for. But again, it doesn't matter if that's not the demographic of people that you're trying to get in front of. And if you have a smaller budget, you're going to spend that cash very quickly and you're not going to see any sort of results. So, third mistake I usually see is when you hire a local based agency and they don't really understand the physical therapy side of things. So, again, when you're starting to think about when you want to run ads, and who should you hire to do this? Should you do it on your own? You need to make sure that you're asking, you're understanding these mistakes that oftentimes happen, running them on your own. Listening to the Google account ads account reps. Hiring a local agency. You shouldn't be doing this on your own. You shouldn't be, leaning into and taking the advice from the Google Ads account reps and a local service agency, unless they've worked with PT clinics in the past. These are the questions you should be asking them. If they have, then awesome. Run with them, see what their results are. But you got to really trust this, because again, if you're trying to run it on your own, or even if their management fee is small, you can spend five, six, $7,000 very quickly without seeing any sort of results, and that is the opposite of obviously what we want. One of my big predictions in 2025 was that ad spend was going to become the norm, and I really believe that, because the ROI potential for these cash pay for service clinics is so high, especially if you can get your LTV per patient up above $2,000 or $3,000. You get people purchasing multiple packages. It's a no-brainer to start running ads because we know the cost to acquire a lead is, let's call it even, let's say $100 for easy math. And if you're converting half of those leads into new patients, and each patient that's coming in is spending $2,000 or $3,000 with you, that's $200 for every new patient that's coming in the door. Even if you're only converting 20%, that ROI is still worth it. But you need to make sure that your LTV is really dialed in. The more people that I talk to, and why I'm like so bullish on people spending $1,000 or $2,000 a month on ads, is because I'm hearing how hard local marketing and workshops are right now. Every clinic owner that I talk to is like, nobody's showing up to my workshops anymore. I have the same two or three people that are coming each time, which is awesome. Like, that's great. Like, those people are getting a ton of value. Just you being there in the local community, even if people aren't showing up to the workshops, like, you're still getting your name out there. It's good Instagram content, but I think that's just going to be continue to trend that way, where workshops is going to be really, really hard, and more people are buying online. And even though local marketing is really the tried and true way of getting new patients in the door, I think that boom kind of happened in 2022, and in 2025, 26, 27, 28. I think, instead of workshops and injury screens and that way of acquiring new patients, I think it's going to be paid advertising in the next couple of years. So that's, again, one of my big predictions for 2025 and really moving forward. So, if you're wondering whether or not you're ready to run paid ads, I think you need to ask yourself these three questions. And this is, I have tons of people coming to me, hey, listen, like, I'm a solo clinic owner. I just started my clinic, or, I've grown my clinic to 3 PTs without running ads. Do I really need to be running ads, or should I run ads? And these are always the questions that I ask people who are kind of in those situations. So, if you find yourself, whether you're a solo clinic owner who has never run ads and you're not sure if you should be running ads, or if you're a more established clinic owner, have a couple PTs under your belt, and you've done everything um, organically up until this point, I think you should ask yourself these three questions. The first question, and the biggest one, the most important one, is, are you looking at ads as an investment, or are your ads a cost and just something that lives on your P&L? The sad truth for ads is you're not going to get a 10x ROI in 2 or 3 weeks of running ads. This is not how it works. It really took Ripple a solid year to figure out, what we need to be showing up for, what ad groups we need to be running, what campaigns we need to be running, what are the keywords, what's the ad copy look like, until we really felt comfortable with what ROI we're seeing. And we really got up there on the ROI side of things. Again, that's a year that it took me to feel comfortable with that and really understand what we need to be doing, not 2 or 3 weeks. And we see this a ton at Patch too, where people get, you know, um, 14, 30 days into running their ads accounts, and there's only a handful of conversions, and they want to stop running the ads. If that's kind of your thought process with this, then you're not ready to run ads, which is totally fine, but you need to be ready to commit at minimum 90 days for running ads. And that is at minimum, really should be 6 months. You want to run ads for 6 months, and then you get a really good idea, because a good, I consider Patch to be obviously a good media buying agency. I think we run our ads really, really well. And we think that we can figure out what's going on in your ads account in the first couple of months to make any sort of changes that you start to see the ROI on the 90-day mark. More than often, we see this within the first 30 to 60 days. But kind of at minimum, we can make enough changes to justify the ROI and get those conversions in the door within those first 90 days. But again, that 90 days is really, that's like a standard learning period for either Meta or Google. So you need to commit at minimum to that. And again, like I said, 6 months is really what you want to be looking at. So if your mindset is, Google Ads is a cost and I'm not seeing the return that I'm looking for on this, then you're not ready for ads. Like which again is totally fine. But if you're interested in using paid ads to grow your and scale your clinic, then your mindset needs to be this is an investment because there was many months at Ripple where I lost money on the Google Ads side of things, but I understood like, hey, there's seasonality with running ads. There is, there's going to be months where we're just doing a little bit more learning versus actually, ROIing on everything. And I knew like some of the bigger months that were happening. For example, February is a huge Google Ads month. After Labor Day weekend is a huge Google Ads month, and closer to the end of the year, those are the times where I would double down on my ad spend and I would invest more versus some of those slower periods where I knew I was just going to run in the red, and that's totally fine. So, moral of that, and the first question you need to ask yourself is, are you looking at paid ads as an investment or is it a cost? The second question you should ask yourself is, how good are your backend systems and do you even have backend systems? This kind of goes hand in hand with question number one, to be honest with you, because in order to have good backend systems, you obviously need to pay for a piece of software. We utilize HubSpot for this. HubSpot is not a cheap piece of software. There's a good reason for that because it does a lot of really good things for your business. So you need to look at that as an investment as well. But, the reason you need to, give yourself a fair assessment on your backend systems is because if you're running Google ads, you're going to get leads. There's really no question about that. But if your backend systems and you're running ads, if people are going to your website and they're filling out a form that's like a Squarespace or a website form, and you have no idea where that lead is going, or there's no automated messaging that's following up there, maybe you're sending leads to your EMR or it's getting zapped over to some Google sheet. If you're running ads and that is the case, then you are literally just lighting money on fire. Running ads and not having a CRM, like having a CRM when you're running ads, it's a non-negotiable. You have to have one of these set up. It's the easiest way to follow up with leads. And what a good CRM will do for you is it'll also automate a piece of that as well. So if you get a new lead in the door, they fill out a form, maybe they book a discovery call, they should be enrolled in an email drip immediately right off the bat. You should also, in your admin or your sales rep or whoever you have following up these leads, you should also get a notification. I think that notification should go to you directly inside of Slack. Because if you have a clinic with a couple staff members, this is a whole other topic. Maybe I'll do a podcast on this, but you should be using Slack to communicate with your team. That also is a non-negotiable. So your CRM should be able to create a task inside of Slack to follow up with these leads. You can get clear on who you need to follow up with. And Slack is probably what you're living in throughout the day because that's how you're communicating with your team. So the lead coming through there is going to be the easiest way to follow up with that person. CRM will also help you track your ROI for your ad leads as well. So a good CRM will understand who's an ad lead, how many ad leads have you gotten, how many of those ad leads have turned into customers. You need to understand, what percent of ad leads are turning into actual patients, and based on the number of new patients you've had in the door, how much revenue are you generating based on those paid ads. Again, a really good CRM is going to do all of this stuff for you. That's why this is a non-negotiable. You cannot be sending people to your EMR to self-book themselves a discovery call or an initial evaluation. We've actually tested that a bunch where, of website traffic going to, let's call it a contact or a landing page, if there's like a very simple form or a discovery call for somebody to fill out, that will convert 50% more website traffic than sending somebody to PT Everywhere or to Jane or to IntakeQ or something along those lines. So you need to have your form be linked to your CRM. Whenever somebody fills that out, then the set of automations should go off. It should notify you to reach out to that person right off the bat. And it should also, automate some of the follow up to that person as well, just so, there's immediate follow-up happening there that's happening before you're actually doing that, because obviously we're trying to get to these people within 15 minutes of them inquiring, but sometimes we just can't do that, which actually leads me to my third question that you need to be asking yourself if you're going to be running ads, and that is, are you actually going to be following up with your leads frequently, consistently, and over a long period of time? This is very important as well, because let's be honest, most paid ad leads, they're not good leads. They're not going to be the leads that you've built your clinic on. They're not going to be the leads that have come from word of mouth referrals or people that you met at workshops. Any paid ad leads is going to have no idea who you are. There's no brand recognition there. They're coming in as cold as they can be. And, the days of going from ad to landing page to book discovery call to evaluation to package just doesn't work like that anymore. There's got to be a little bit more trust built there, and that's where this follow-up process has to come into play, and you have to be consistent with it. So the strategy that we use for our paid ad leads and what we teach people inside of Patch to do is that you need to call, you need to leave a voicemail, you need to email, and you need to text people 3 times in the first 24 hours. Let me say that again. You need to call, you need to leave a voicemail, you need to text them, and you need to email them 3 times the day that they inquire about your services. That might seem like a lot, but you really have 72 hours to get that paid lead in the door. And if you're not following up multiple times each day for those first 72 hours, the odds of that person coming in, taking your phone call, getting on a discovery call goes way, way down. And if you get past that 3-day mark, then the odds of them actually coming in become basically zero. So you need to be very strict about this. You need to be very consistent with it, and you cannot think in your brain that you're being annoying with all of this follow up, because you're not. They inquired about services, especially again if they're coming from a Google ad. They actually type this into Google, they filled out a form. That's a very high quality lead, and that's again, I think that's a warm lead. But you need to be doing your follow up process. You need to provide a little bit of trust, a little bit of value with those people. So again, call, leave a voicemail, text them, email them, because what happens, right, is whenever somebody inquires, I don't really know what their preferred form of communication is. They might be 30 years old and they just want to text. Like, I don't want to get on a phone call, just text me. So that's why you do all of them. Maybe it's somebody who's a little bit older, and they would rather just have a phone call, or they communicate a little bit better via email because that's just a little bit easier for them because they can kind of get to it whenever. So that's why we do all of those to figure out what the proper form of communication is going to be for that person. And then whichever one that they move forward with, say they respond back to a text, I'm not going to continue calling or emailing that person. I'm just going to text them moving forward. So that's a really important part of the follow-up process. I think the other important part is who's owning the follow-up. Is it you? Is it your admin? Is it a combination of people? I always loved at Ripple, we had a Slack channel called the Killers group. And really what we're trying to do is, there's 3 or 4 of us. And, that this is where all of our, new leads came in. So, somebody filled out a form or they inquired about service. We got notified in that group, and, somebody would take charge and say, hey, I got this person. And then they were on the hook to continue following up with that person moving forward. So it's really important to understand, again, is it you as a clinic owner? That always converts the highest, to be totally honest with you, and probably most people don't want to hear that, but that is the route that converts the highest. Is if somebody can actually talk to the clinic owner, who's also a physical therapist, the odds of them coming in become much, much higher. We're also seeing a couple clinics hiring like sales reps. This is like a high leverage office manager basically, and their job is to just follow up with people, do all the marketing side of things. I think it's a really smart hire. I think a lot of these 7-figure plus clinics are going to have this like sales rep on their team, especially for clinic owners that are trying to remove themselves. So, really you just need to make sure that somebody knows that this is their job and it's not just like a secondary thing, because this is the most important thing. If you're paying for these leads and you're trying to grow your clinic, but you're not following up with them, then again, you're going to see no ROI and you're just going to think that paid ads doesn't work for you. But that is not the case. It is because you're not doing any sort of follow-up. The last part of all the follow-up side of things is going to be, how are you tracking this? Again, this is where CRM comes into play. HubSpot does an amazing job with this, where we can understand, when was the last time we emailed this person, or we called them, or they called us, or we sent them a text message. That way we can understand, how many touch points does it take for somebody to respond to us and come in. That's a really important figure to have, where, if you know that on average it takes 20 touch points for somebody to come in, you know that you're going to need to follow up with people a ton. If it's only 3, then it's going to be a little bit less than that. But without having that data and a piece of software tracking that, it becomes really, really hard to figure all those things out. So, again, these 3 questions that you should be asking yourself is going to be, if you're going to be running ads, are you looking at it as an investment or a cost? And it should always be an investment. The second question you got to ask yourself is, are you investing in backend systems? And, what do your backend systems look like right now? And the third thing is, are you going to seriously commit to your follow up and be consistent and frequent and do it over a long period of time for these ads leads? Again, 2025, I think everybody from a solo clinic owner to big clinics should be running ads, because if you do it right, your ROI can be huge and you can scale your clinic very, very quickly, and you can get really qualified people in the door. Um, and it just makes growing your clinic a lot easier. You don't have to do all this crazy local marketing. It's a little bit faster. You can do both at the same time, which I think a lot of people don't realize. Once you move into the paid ads side of things, you shouldn't stop local marketing. Or, if you're focusing on local marketing, that doesn't mean you also can't be running ads. These things should go hand in hand. Um, and, the tricky part about running ads is you need to do a lot of things right. It's not as easy as, Meta or Google make it seem. And most clinic owners don't have the time or energy or effort or education to actually do this. So, if you're interested in running ads and you're asking yourself the right questions and you're answering them properly, and you feel like now is the time for you to be running ads, then take all of this into consideration. And if you have any questions, definitely send them over to me. I'm more than happy to chat on this. We obviously do this with Patch. We help hundreds of clinics get all of this stuff set up. If you have any further questions on the paid ads side of things, I obviously love this stuff. I nerd out on it. Reach out to me. I'm happy to chat. And yeah, I'll leave you guys with this. I think everybody should be running paid ads. It's a very, and I think everybody should be spending, whatever their lifetime value is for one new patient. So whether that's $800 or $3,000, I think you should be spending that on a monthly basis. Because if you can get one new person in the door, then that is going to make your ROI even, at least. So the money you're spending on ads, you're bringing that in, so you're not negative on that net. And that's where the snowball effect starts to happen, because you have one person in that you found from ads, and they have a coworker or a wife or a sister that they are going to bring in, and that person does the same thing, and it really starts to spider web from there. So this is why the net effect of running ads is really important, and I think everybody should be doing it. So if you guys have any questions, definitely reach out, and appreciate you guys tuning in.